I feel like one day we're going to know for a fact, without a doubt, that plants are sentient beings. We already know that plants can experience pain, maybe not in the same way that we experience pain, but they do in fact experience pain. Or they have ways to sense that things are happening to them that they need to do something about, right? If a caterpillar is biting on a leaf to a plant, some plants will know to release certain pheromones or poisons to thwart this caterpillar from eating it. Also know that plants, whenever they're being attacked or killed, they emit a frequency of vibration that is so high that the human ears cannot detect it. But with certain technologies, we can actually detect these frequencies, and it's basically plants screaming. So the argument against plants being sentient beings is because they don't have brains, and they can't physically move away from danger. However, in 2005, there was a man named Stefano Mancuso. He discovered that at the ends of every single plant, at the ends of the roots, there's this area that is focused on electric signals. You know what blows my mind is that plants can actually create electricity. They generate about 150 volts of electricity in a single leaf. That's nuts to me. They're literally like little energy power centers, little living batteries. But getting back to the roots of these plants, the ends of their roots can detect certain stimuli, electrical signals. Therefore, they can search with the roots the same way our minds, our brains, can detect things with our fingers. So no, they do not have a brain. However, they do have these little energy centers scattered throughout the roots that contain a bunch of little electric signals. So, I mean, to me, that would be like a plant's version of a brain. No, they don't have one, but yes, they do create electric signals, and they're composed of electricity, so it could be said that they could be some type of sentient. They can detect. That would insinuate to me some form of conscious awareness, detection, the ability to detect. Another way that I would say if plants were conscious, sentient beings, aside from just being able to detect things, they would be able to recognize things as well, right? Some type of recognition, being able to recognize things. This absolutely blows my mind. Plants can recognize their own freaking relatives, dude. In 2007, there was a lady named Susan Dudley. She was a PhD evolutionary plant ecologist, I believe. She was doing an experiment with plants with a student graduate of hers. These two found out through experiments that whenever these specific plants were sharing containers or pots with relatives of theirs, there was less root crowding than there was with plants that were not of the same type. Whenever these plants were in a container with their own kind, they acted less invasively than they would if they had competition of another type of plant in the same container. Which would also insinuate plants recognize other plants of their own kind as well. So plants detect signals and stimuli, right? And they can recognize their own kind of plant. That to me would be more than enough for classification of sentient. Now a lot of biologists say, no, that's impossible. You can't fucking reproduce that experiment. That's inconclusive. There's no way that's possible. You can't do that. It's been done again. There was a research group in China that carried out the exact same experiment and had the exact same results of plants recognizing their own kind and changing the way their biomass is structured and the way that their roots grow, their systems grow, and how the plant itself ultimately grows and reacts in accordance to plants of their own kind or others. So let's put all the bullshit aside. Let's say hypothetically, even though this isn't even hypothetical at this point to me, this is conclusive evidence that they're sentient. But let's say hypothetically, since we haven't as a society, as humanity, recognized plants as sentient beings like a dog or a cat, right? Hypothetically, let's say that they are sentient. What is the vegan movement now? This isn't to smite vegans. This is the philosophical conundrum of, well, how do we live without causing negative karma, so to speak? Because we're phasing out of the meat eating era because we realize we don't have to eat this much meat. We really don't have to eat meat at all. We really could survive on just plants. But more research needs to be done, of course, because if you don't eat any meat at all, you do develop a lot of different issues. But let's say, okay, one day we no longer eat meat, right? And we become super reliant on plants like we are basically seeing right now happen across the planet. To go through thousands of years where we're like, well, plants aren't that sentient, you know, how we've kind of viewed pigs and chickens and cows. To me, eventually we're gonna have conclusive evidence of a plant making a fucking decision, and we're gonna know for a fact, okay, that was a conscious decision this plant made. So now we know absolutely that plants are conscious. Can we eat them? Right, the karmic thing, right? Well, how do we live life without killing something to survive? I think a lot of this it's a juju woo topic, right? It's beyond diet, it's beyond health, it's a spiritual thing, it's a emotional thing, it's people that don't want to kill things. I have no doubt in my mind that one day we will reach the inevitable conclusion that plants are sentient beings, and then there's going to be a new movement. People that won't eat animals, they won't eat plants, and they just stare at the sun and they sun gaze and sun eat all day, every day, and that's how they get their energy. I know that sounds silly as fuck, but don't knock it until you try it though. I know there's many ancient peoples who were obsessed with the sun and they worship the sun for a fucking specific reason. I have this theory that human beings have some type of ancient process where we could absorb the rays of sunlight and actually convert it to energy ourselves, kind of like a type of conscious human photosynthesis, right? Where we turn the sun's rays into energy, usable energy, because I've fucking done it. I've done that shit. There's a couple videos on here where I talk about sun gazing or sun eating. And to me, it's a thing where you connect with the sun through your pineal gland, your third eye, and that is where you absorb that energy. Of course, I can't just say this to you and say, yeah, I know this for a fact. I can't explain to you I can't prove to you how that happened with me and how I actually absorbed the sun and got energy for 18 hours without eating food. I felt hypercharged, overcharged, like a battery that's overcharged. I can't paint that picture perfectly for you. You'd have to actually go out there and experience it for yourself. But if you'd like to prove me wrong, or accidentally prove me right, I would say during the morning when the sun is going up, or in the evening when the sun is going down. Both times of day the sun is not fully blared in the sky and it will not damage your retina by looking at the sun. What I did was I meditated and I just stared into the sun, and over time I felt this strange warm sense of magnetism like pushing against my forehead. Eventually I felt this crack in my forehead, and then this warm liquid feeling just started pushing and moving its way into my forehead. It was a really trippy experience, man. And then I felt this vibrating sensation in my head, and I just felt this supercharged energy, and I just felt it was the most spiritual experience I've ever experienced since birth. The only way I can really truly experience it is like establishing a connection with the sun and reconnecting with the sun, almost like it's a motherly relationship, like a reconnect to source. Like I said, I totally understand this sounds fucking nuts, for sure. Like 10 years ago, if I would have watched the same video I'm talking about right now, I'd been like, you're out of your fucking mind. But there's more to reality. There's more to the human experience than many of us are even aware of. But the only reason we don't understand more is because we're not trying to do more. You know, there's still levels to the human experience we don't understand yet. You know, for the longest time we thought cats and dogs are not conscious. Dogs can't look up. Dogs don't smile. Now we know for sure dogs fucking smile. Plants aren't conscious. Plants aren't sentient. Now we're starting to find out that they fucking are. They got little fingers called roots, and they can detect stimulation, electrical signals. How am I wrapping this up? I don't know. This is more of a ramble because the whole topic itself is fucking fascinating to me. But research this shit, and I challenge you to do some sun gazing or sun eating is also what it's called. And if you need some advice on how to do it, or want the link to the video where I actually go into depth about discussing how I made that event happen, where I connected with the sun and felt this overcharging sensation, let me know. It's a very indescribable experience.